All right, listening to the ocean's secrets. And that's what we're going to do today, whether you're listening at a later time on YouTube or you're present today. Listening to the ocean's secret. Ocean has secrets, and we're going to listen to them today. Uh, to do that, we're going to do that, we're going to spend the majority of our time in the right brain. And those of you who have been studying the whole brain, the left and the right, there's a big difference. And we're going to sort of move over there in a minute. The right brain is our portal to mystery. I mean, all the AI stuff that we're using, including this uh, platform here that can, span hundreds of miles and bring us together. That's all left brain stuff. AI is all left brain stuff, and that's good, you know, no doubt about it. But we have to, and more and more, I'm 76, I'll be 77 in October, and I'm really concentrating on spending more and more time in my right brain. The right brain's the portal, the mystery. Well, the big six mysteries, there's a bunch of mysteries. I don't want to go into it, but the big six, like the six pack of mystery that every human being deals with, is life itself, birth, loss, aging, death, and then what's beyond. Those six big mysteries, every human being encounters them. We can deny them, we can look the other way, we can spend our time, watching, playing games or whatever. But those are the six big ones: life, birth, loss. I mean, every kind of loss. Uh, from huge loss to what the hell is my password, goes from the, huge to the small, aging, death, and then what's beyond? What is beyond what is beyond death? Yeah. But first, I want to just give you just a little bit of basic left brain cognitive platform to make this jump. Uh, I'm wearing my red and black today because today is the Pentecost, the Christian celebration of the formation of the Christian community after um, the death of the the teacher, his resurrection, total mystery. He moved among us, among the people, with doing miracles still, and with a different body that they didn't recognize as first, and then he disappeared. And then the next week was this huge mystery. The church started in mystery. Uh, the apostles were sort of huddled in the upper room, figuring, well, he died, he came back, now he left. What the hell, And then all of a sudden, tongues of fire came in with the wind, and there's icons of where each apostle has a tongue of fire over his head, and then they burst out of the hiding and they went into the crowds and they spoke uh, all different languages, and they went from being afraid to be courageous. They went from fear to love, and that's sort of the left brain right brain bailiwicks. The left brain is about this life and running by fear, trying to keep this body and mind in one piece, which I'm glad of. But then when you go to right brain, the heart and soul, they deal with mystery and love. They're on a totally different IP, if you want to call it, in the computers. They're on a totally different network. Okay. Now I want to cross over because I don't really, the living Buddha and the living Christ, not two for me, and so I work in both these traditions. So I'm gonna talk about and give you an experience of a Buddhist Pentecostal practice here. Essentially, is what it is. It's a Buddhist mystery practice. Buddhists are known for their logic and sort of analysis and whatever, but they also have streams of mystery. They definitely have folks that do uh, find access to the mystery as well. Yeah. Uh, a little background here, and then we'll get on to actually doing this Buddhist uh, Pentecostal practice. Uh, I work with Korean Zen masters off and on. More than 10 years, really, during the 80s and the beginning of the 90s. They gave Christian Zen retreats out at Gethsemane. And Korean Buddhist guys came in from Furnace Mountain, and then we had monks and everybody in between. There's 30 or 40 of us. It was a great 12 years. And the Korean, this Kwanum school of Zen at the time that was coming in, they used koans. And so I want to tell you a little bit about koans. Koans are little packets of mystery. They're little mystery sayings that vault you into mystery or drive you crazy. And they did both to me. They did both to me. First of all, koan, Koan, it's pronounced koan, it's a kind of paradoxical riddle or story that certain strains of Japanese and Korean Buddhism use to exhaust the left brain, exhaust the analog. You can't analyze a koan. Believe me, I tried for more than a year, year and a half, just tried to figure it out. You can't. You cannot analyze a riddle in these, and they're so when they frustrate that, and they want to trigger sudden intuitive enlightenment, which is the province of the right brain. That's where intuition lies. So the goal actually is, it seems weird, but the goal is to provoke a great doubt and bypass logical reasoning and allow whoever is practicing them to access the right brain and eventually realize the big payoff, realize your inherent Buddha nature, as they call it, or true self, or whatever the tradition calls that deepest, most authentic self. And so it was a sort of a way to cut to the chase. And Korean and Japanese Zen guys used this, and I struggled with it for more than a decade. And the format is released. It's easy. Your Zen master gives you a short, absurd statement, impossible question, and then you go sit with it. Now, one of the first ones that they normally give out is the first one that I got when I was on my first retreat. There was, what is the sound of one hand clapping? And when you think you can see what the problem is right there. What is the sound of one hand clapping? So again, instead of relying on logic, students have to break through the ordinary way that the left brain thinking, uh, as the Sufis say, there's 70,000 veils that the left brain uses, and you break through that. And then you experience pure awareness. Awareness is not the same as thinking. Pure awareness is what they call the Buddha nature, the true self. All right, so I think that's another, well, a little bit more. Well, this is just embarrassing for me to say, but when I first was given this, what is the sound of one hand clapping by the Zen master, we were in a little room up in the monastery. He said, "Well, what koan are you using?" I said, "I don't have one. This is the first time here." And he said, "Well, I'll give you one." And it's an introductory one. He said, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" And so my initial reply is, "Well, I think," and then he hit the bell, and he said, "That's your problem, too much thinking." And then he bowed, and I had to leave, and that went on for almost 2 years. He would come, and I'd see him once or twice during the time. He said, "What koan were you working on?" I said, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" And he said, "Well, what is it?" And I would give him my answer, and he'd ring the bell, and I'd have to walk out backwards. You can't just turn around. I felt like it though, and show him my ass because I got angry. I said, "Well, why do you keep asking me? If you know it, just tell me." Well, I didn't understand the whole working of it. And actually, even over the summer, I found a book that was called "What is the Sound of One Hand Clapping?" and 100 other koans. There's 535 of them, by the way. They're little mystery things that could fit any occasion to freak out your people in it for any occasion. So I found the book. I bought the book used. What is the sound of one hand clapping? And so I read up, and so there it was. The weekend before Derby, we file into the uh, over at the Abbey. And when I first got, he says, "What is the koan you're working on?" I said, "What is the sound of one hand?" He says, "Well, what is the sound of one hand clapping?" And I started spitting out what I read in the thing, and he rang the bell, and he said, "Lose the book." So, it was really frustrating. And so by the end, then I had one more sitting with him. The book didn't work. And I don't know. I thought it was a lot of stupid nonsense myself. My left brain did anyway. It was yakking at me the whole time. So I just sort of gave up on the whole thing. And so when I came in, sort of towards the end of the, after sitting a lot in between, I came in and, same thing. What's the sound of one hand clapping? And I had nothing. Actually, I hadn't even thought of an answer before that, which was grace. It was the Holy Spirit, and it just sort of these words just came out through my lips, streamed out. And he said, "What is the sound of it?" I said, "Well, it's the sound of what's been passing for my life up to now." I was frustrated, angry at him, and I don't know where those words came from. They didn't come from my brain because when I said them, I was like, "Oh shit!" And then he bowed. Didn't ring the bell. He bowed, which meant for some reason that was an acceptable answer. And then he calmly gave me the next koan, and I said, "Well, how many of these are there?" And he said, 523 more. And I said, "Oh," and so I'm backed out there, and I'm thinking, I'm hopeless at that point. This took me more than almost 2 years, and but then I had another koan, my own koan. Why the hell was that the right answer? It's the sound of what's been passing for my life up to now. What is the sound of one hand clapping? It's the sound of what's been passing for my life up to now. So I just put the other koan aside, and the other koan was, what was your original face look like before your mother and father begat you? It was number two, classic number two. Well, I could leave that for later. I had to know, well, was that acceptable? It's the sound of what's been passing for my life up till now. Well, so, and I sat with that for the rest of the time, and I sat with that for a while. I kept that other uh, koan on ice, and it took some time, but eventually, uh, I got the sense of what it was. There is no right answer. I'm going to give you a heart-to-heart koan today. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. There's only an answer from your left brain or an answer from the sacred. Yeah. So this is a poem I wrote just to give you an understanding of how I eventually, because I sat with that. Why the hell was that the right answer? Well, I realized there was no right or wrong answer. So this is the poem I wrote, and then we'll actually just jump right into um, doing some meditation for. I'll give you a koan, and we'll work with one today, which I still don't know the answer to myself. But it was called "Waiting for the Thunder." What is the sound of one hand clapping? It's the sound of exile, the sound of a tongue swallowed in fear. It's the sound of what has been passing for my life. The world is right here, hand outstretched, waiting. The entire universe is waiting in beautiful stillness, hand outstretched, waiting to be met, waiting in pregnant silence for the thunderclap of your one true voice. I mean, the sound of one hand clapping. Well, it's a sound of life lived in exile. And that image came from through the right brain, from the Holy Spirit, if you want to use that way of talking about pure grace. Yeah, just that pretty much summed up my life. I was about 38 at that point, I guess. You know, a life lived in exile from my whole self, from actually my whole brain. There was a whole part of me that was missing. Yeah. And only the heart knows what's true. And I had finally spoken from it. And so that moment it took me a while to come to grips. There was no right answer. There's no wrong answer to the koan I'm going to give you and that I'm working on now. But uh, when you'll know it when you read it, when you meet it. So this is the heart to heart koan. Uh, why is the ocean smiling? That's the great secret we're going to go into. Why is the ocean smiling? I mean, it makes no sense now, but and it really will make no sense further. But it will lead you somewhere if you sit with these 5 words. It's just 5 words. I'm going to build a little story as koans have, or give you images, but this is basically what we're going to sit with. Uh, and I'm going to read a short poem twice, and then you're invited to simply sit and listen to the koan. Why is the ocean smiling? You listen to it with the ear of the heart. That image is important. Uh, if you try to think about it, well, you're already out of luck. Believe me, I learned that. So no, this is just to sit with it. And I'll actually give you when we actually start just sitting in a minute. I'll give you just a little lead into it, but essentially you sit and listen with the ear of the heart, and the ear of the heart is code for just sit in awareness. Why is the ocean smiling? And simply experience what arises. That's it. You just experience what arises. At some point, it comes clearer. The answer is just there, but it didn't come from the left brain. All right. So if you're willing to play along, and again, I invite you to do this, you can do what you want when we go into the silence. You can fantasize or you can think about something else. Maybe you have your own mystery because essentially we all have a current mystery in our life, you see. And maybe that one is going to jump on, whether it's a relationship mystery, whether it's financial mystery, health mystery, any of those 6 big mysteries. You know, you're already born, but you know, and life is a big mystery. But maybe there's loss, maybe there's all these other things that happen in a life. So you're you're welcome to. You could sit with your own mystery if you like, but if you don't particularly have one, you can try this one. So okay, so if you can just, and we'll have a little time to write at the end of it because we're stopping, we're stopping early. So we'll sit for some time and then I'll mention you could have a little more time sitting with the mystery, or you might want to come up and write. We'll do that sit and write thing and then we'll have our conversation. So, but put the pens down now or whatever and just shift into a kind of meditation posture. And I'll start the timer and we'll go sometime. You can, the timer is your friend here because you can uh, forget about forget about time. So I'm starting a timer, and on YouTube, do this same thing, and then because there'll be more. I'm just going to sit for about 15 minutes, and we'll have time to write about whatever arises during this time when you consider this. But yeah, just relax, close your eyes, relax everything. The right brain is relaxed. The left brain is sort of tied up in knots and you're sort of clenched. So just relax because there's no right or wrong. You don't even have to, the conversation can be about, anything can come up in a community conversation. You don't have to find a right answer. Give that up right away. And just to start out, uh, feel the waves of breath. If we're going to get into an ocean koan, as you breathe through your nose, feel breath coming in and then going out, just like waves. All right, and now I'm going to read this short uh, uh, poem twice, and then we'll be in the silence. And the poem is "Why is the ocean smiling?" So just let it come in and come out. You don't have to think about it. Just receive it as you sit there relaxed and breathing. Why is the ocean smiling? One day, a whitecap asked a wave, I've heard of this thing called the ocean. Have you ever heard of it? Yes, I've heard of it, proclaimed the wave, but I've never actually seen one. The ocean simply smiled and understood. One day, a whitecap asked a wave, I've heard of this thing called the ocean. Have you ever heard of it? Yes, I've heard of it, proclaimed the wave, but I've never actually seen one. The ocean simply smiled and understood. So, fellow pilgrim, why is the ocean? Why is the ocean smiling? Why is the ocean smiling? Hint, the only way to know is by listening with the ear of your heart. The left brain cannot figure it out by thinking. So you just can leave that go, which is the essence of meditation always. You lay thinking aside and just rest. And for today, you can rest with these 5 words or just the image of it. Why is the ocean smiling? That's a koan. Makes no logical sense. Why is the ocean smiling?